I want to thank you for joining me this evening. I'm going to be speaking on the issue that was brought up in the case of Mr. and Mrs. R of whether or not self-determination and empowerment are the same thing as Murdoch proposes. I read over several articles. One had to do with self-determination and the involuntary client, and was written by Barsky. Another one it hit on empowerment, and empowering our clients can only happen as we empower ourselves as practitioners, and it really touched on the issue of power itself. And then also an article, and that was written by McIntosh. And then there was a third article called Paradox of Self-Determination for Marginalized Individuals, and that was written by Green. Reading over the information from Murdoch, as well as these other three articles, I really find myself challenged with the idea of self-determination and empowerment, and whether they really are the same thing. Self-determination, in my mind, really comes down to allowing someone to be able to strive to lead the course and basically steer the ship of their own life, making the decisions that are best for them. Within the Code of Ethics for the NASW, it states that we're to help maintain the worth and respect of our clients. I completely agree with that. And the challenge I come up with in thinking about self-determination being equal to empowerment is really it comes down to the idea of support. I feel like there's more of a sense of support and community, and attempting to get resources and information and knowledge around the client in a spirit of empowerment, where you're helping to equip them and support them so that they can come to those greater realizations of how to better direct their lives. In particular, there is in the article by Green, there was a definition that, if I can access it on my computer right now, I would like to do that. And the definition here talks about self-determination, but in a little bit different light. And it says self-determination refers to an individual's awareness of personal strengths and weaknesses, the ability to set goals and make choices, to be assertive at appropriate times, and interact with others in a socially competent manner. A self-determined person is able to make independent decisions based on his or her ability to use resources, which includes collaborating and networking with others. The outcome of a self-determined person is the ability to realize his or her own potential, to become a productive member of a community, and to obtain his or her goals without infringing on the rights, responsibilities, and goals of others. I find that very interesting and much more fleshed out than some of the other goals. When we look at our Code of Ethics, it talks about empowering clients to be able to maintain a sense of self-worth and also self-worth and also dignity. And I think about, in situations like that, and I'm thinking of homeless people, or even the case of Mr. and Mrs. R, who are not homeless, but are meeting some challenges. And I wonder if just kind of contemplating out loud whether or not empowering them with resources and support would actually help them, and especially Mrs. R, to be able to have more dignity and self-respect and have a greater sense of self-worth by being able to live life in a way and at a level that she used to. And it comes back to our ability as social workers to really give options to clients, and to help find those alternatives for them, to help to empower them along these lines. I think without finding alternative solutions and options, we are really leaving clients at a compromised place before they ever came to us. If we don't provide those resources and alternatives and options, then really, why did they come to us in the first place? And I think one of the parallels that I took away from the McIntosh article that I think was a really powerful one is the idea that as a profession, we're trying to empower ourselves in what was otherwise a paternalistic environment in which we really didn't see the worth or didn't feel like we were receiving the dignity and respect as professionals, which is why we came up with our code of ethics and why we have the different competencies in our program and why we have board exams. It's because we were doing things to increase our self-worth, our sense of self-respect and dignity, to be able to stand then in the presence of other professionals that had these things in place, to be able to say, yes, we are empowering ourselves to show that we have as great a credibility as others in other helping professions. And I really think that just looking at how we are choosing to empower ourselves, we're doing that through a rational mindset. And we're also doing that through a way of looking at resources, looking at other models, and really raising the bar on who we are. We're not just standing on a street corner screaming for our rights and expecting a certain outcome without putting in the inputs and without realizing that there's natural consequences to the choices that we make. And I really think that those are the key points. And in some ways, I feel like the former are, the issues of self-determination, where empowerment is, when we are helping to equip, we are helping to provide alternatives and options so that clients are better positioned to make better decisions for themselves. But then ultimately, after they are equipped and provided with alternatives, allowing them to make those decisions to self-determine, and hopefully from a position where they have already developed a greater sense of self-worth and dignity and self-respect, to be able to have confidence in the decisions they're making. I hope this was helpful. I enjoy getting your responses.